All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you for sticking around. I do win that award in terms of being digitally invisible. Now, I don't remember, the older folks here, remember the times back in 70 when we used to say, oh, the government's spying on us and everything's phone jacked. Today, we have bugs all over and say, hey, bug, order me a pizza. They're hearing everything, and to me, that's still a little strange. So, and another thing I want to bring up is a little bit of a ramble about myself is Sarah asked me today, hey, send me something interesting about myself. And I told her I sent her information about my work. And she asked me, what do you do for hobby? Something else other than that. And I couldn't immediately answer that for her. So today, I am taking the first step. 3 years ago, the 3 years ago me would have never imagined that I'd be speaking in front of a crowd in a bar, considering that to this day, in the 30 years that I've been around, or 30 so years, I've never gotten drunk before. All right, so considering that, 30 years of being sober, I would have never guessed to be speaking in front of such crowd. But without further ado, I'll start. But before I start, a little warning. So the following content contains graphic images of insect mating. Viewer discretion is advised. All right, so we all love mating and we all love nature. So let's take a quick peek at nature. Oh, Jack, I understand. This thing's terrible. So here's our nature. It's beautiful. There are birds chirping, pretty butterflies, there are singing insects, animals in the sky and water. It's really pretty. And how many of us just like to go outside, relax, and watch nature? Great, great. We have a good crowd here tonight. So, let's actually, I added an audio file. I forgot about that. Let's listen to some of those sounds. So those are some singing sounds of birds and insects. And it's seemingly innocent, but if we put a filter through this view, this is in the mind of everything. Let's mate, let's mate, let's mate. And if we were to translate these sounds into English, it would probably say, mate with me. Oh God. This was what I was afraid of. I made this using PC, and the Mac's really screwing this up for me, but that's all right. So So life seems, outside of our friendly frat members, all life seems to have obsession with mating. And that's because if there's a lineage of organisms that are not prioritizing mating, it would have probably gone extinct. All right? So let me put that into a little bit of perspective. Is there anyone in here that doesn't plan on having children? All right, good for you. But let's put that in a weird perspective than that is since the beginning of life, it has been descending down over and over again through reproduction. And if you don't have kids, your lineage ends with you. Billions of years of lineage, and that ends with you. Isn't that strange? Okay, not billions, but hundreds of millions of years. So, but of course, as with everything, there are many challenges associated with mating. And that's mainly coming from limited resources, which results in competition amongst others. And that competition's usually intraspecific, meaning within a species. So as a result, a lot of organisms have come up with various mating rituals to up their chances. And there are many fantastic examples. And because Sarah's only given me 30 minutes, I can't discuss them all. So I narrowed it down to my top 5 list of most bizarre insect mating rituals. All right, so if you are ready, and since there are no children in the crowd, I am free to go. All right, first group I like to mention are the mantids, the deadly predators of other arthropods. The reason why it's so great to be very large creatures and not small insects. All right, we all know the story. The fate of males that decides to mate. All right, it's a choice between mating or living. Was it? All right, so the females are much larger than the males, and when she's done with him, she'll make him her next meal. But sometimes the females become really impatient and she chews at him while she's mating with him. But the mating continues. The show's got to go on, right? But but there's a lot of big misconception. So there's a big misconception that male mantids purposefully sacrifice themselves for to provide nutrition to his eggs. But that's actually not completely true. Male mantids, after mating, will try to run away as best as he can because he wants to go find and mate with other females, I'm sorry. No offense. So in the animal kingdom, yes, no discrimination. In the animal kingdom, for males at least, it's the best interest for them to find and mate with as many partners as he can. Not that we should, but that's the general interest. And same applies with mantids. So I'm going to swipe back in time and pretend this male mantis when he still has his head intact. In his abdomen, we have something called the abdominal ganglia. It's part of the insect's nervous system that controls the segments of their abdominal segments. And at the very end of their abdomen, the part of the ganglia controls the reproductive organs. On the mantid's head, there is quotation mark, the brain. All right, the abdominal ganglia is responsible for the function of the male mantis sex organ. While mating, however, the brain controls how much sperm he's going to give to each individual female. So, with that restraint, the male will mate, give a female a certain amount of sperm, try to run away, and then find another partner. But in this case, the female chewed away the brain before he has a chance to have that thought. Okay? So that restraint is gone. So this male no longer has any limitation on how much sperm he's going to give to the female. So he says, screw it, I am going to give all my seeds to the lady who ate me. And so he becomes. All right, so moving on, the number 4 on my list are the dragonflies. What could possibly be so weird about dragonflies? Now, we all love strolls over lakes, streams, and has anyone seen dragonflies flying in tandem in this very weird shape? Yeah, so this is part of their mating ritual, but can anyone see what's wrong with it? Well, other than everything, what's wrong with it? Right? So when we think about mating, we think there are contacts between scientific term genitals. And in this case, that doesn't seem to be the case. So if we take a closer look, this is not where the male genitalia is. That's actually a special organ, but I'll get to it. So males, when he is ready to mate, place his sperm in a special sac we call the spermatophore. Then it places the spermatophore into a basket at the beginning of its abdomen. The female, when she's ready to mate with the male, reaches for that basket and takes the spermatophore to inseminate herself. But the interesting thing is, why are they doing this instead of what everything else seems to be doing, which is direct contact? And that is because on the males, on that special basket, there are some small hair. And as the female scoops in to take the spermatophore, that hair is functioning as a removing agent of sperm that might exist from a previous male that she may have mated with. And this is their paternity check. I am going to guarantee to be the father of my offspring, or the offsprings that comes to be. And this behavior, this tandem flying behavior, continues until the female lays her eggs inside water. And that is so that the males could constantly keep away other males from mating with her. So, so he's claiming her as his own. All right. So, number 3 on my list are the bed bugs. All right. I hope none of you have suffered the terrible consequences of having a bedbug infestation in here. All right, but let's get to it. So I want to play a little game. So here is a picture of a male and a female bedbug mating. Again, what's wrong with this picture? Yes, other than everything. Where are the genitals? Yeah, that's actually getting very close to it. Again, this is not where the female genitalia is located. But unlike the dragonflies we just talked about, the females don't have any special organ at that location. All right? So what's happening here is the males are jabbing the female on the abdomen, creating a puncture, and then inseminating her directly through the abdomen. Okay? I know a lot of people are into weird stuff while mating, but this is very strange still. Okay, so this scientifically we call the traumatic insemination, and I don't know if bedbugs are masochistic, but I don't think the female at all enjoys this process. And if we look very closely at the male genitals, this giant barb exists, and this is what he uses to jab her and then inseminate her. Wow, talk about terrible things. And the females actually receive a large scar during the mating process, and we can't even estimate how old a female is based on how many scars she have. And that can't be healthy. Right? All right, so number 2 on my list are the small postmen. These are really pretty butterflies. We have a local species in Florida as well, so if anyone's down there, take a look. And outside, it's a really pretty butterfly. It's seemingly innocent. What could possibly be wrong with it? And here are a couple males, male specimen. Again, very pretty butterflies. It's we can't take innocence away from butterflies, right? But today I'll challenge that preconception, and that is through their behavior called facultative pupil mating, which could translate into plain English as child pedophilia in insects. All right? So in this picture, here are 3 adult emerged males. In the center is a pupa of a female that has yet to emerge as an adult. In this picture, these males are attempting to mate with this pupa. Now, might I remind everyone, pupal insects are not fully consenting adults over the right age. Okay, so this could be considered very wrong. Now, the reason behind why they're doing this is in this species, relative to the number of males, the number of females is fairly scarce. So a lot of males have difficulty finding mates. And the terrible solution that they have come up with is, again, to start mating with the pupa that have yet to emerge. Now, I'm not sure. I didn't read through enough to see how they distinguish between male and female pupa, but they probably have made accidents in the past. And when the female emerges out of this pupa, when she emerges out of the pupa, she emerges as a gravid female, and the first thing she may need to do is take some meals, let her eggs develop, and go look for a place to oviposit. All right? So, before I get to the number 1 on my list, I'd like to bring an honorable mention. Now, I say honorable because these are not true insects. They're spiders, they're arachnids. And in the peacock spiders, the males have a beautiful courtship dance. Look at them go. Look at them go. Like this. Now, ladies, did that actually make me any more attractive? Okay, so I guess it worked. Everything on the internet was a lie. Now, if you notice in the video, there are no females that are too close to the males. That's because the males are taking caution and respecting the females are just the larger predator she is. Because if he isn't careful, he becomes her next lunch. Again, format error. All right, so I've accidentally spoiled it, but my number 1 in my personal list for weird insect mating ritual is, drumroll please, ants and termites. So what could possibly be strange about these insects? Now, a quick overview would be ants and termites are not at all closely related to each other. Ants are grouped together with wasps and bees. termites are actually grouped together with cockroaches and are also close relatives to praying mantids. So what the thing that they do share is the fact that they're incredibly social animals. And that social behavior makes them incredibly successful as organisms. And I'll give you the reason why. This is our blue marble, planet Earth. And let's say from planet Earth, we took all the people and all the ants and termites and put them on a scale. Now, I'm going to take a poll here. How many think people will weigh more? Come on, I guess this is too scientific of a crowd. But no, I mean everyone, including big people. And people with big ego as well. All right. You still think ants and termites would weigh more? All right. Well, you are right. Ants and termites are incredibly abundant. And let me put that into a bit of a more context. With the entire biomass of animals, about 50% of those are arthropods. And within that 50% of arthropods, 10% of those are ants and termites. That is incredible amount of biomass made up by just these two groups. All right? But all those millions of individuals in a potential colony starts with a single pair. And these pairs meet in an event we call the nuptial flight, during which they swarm in thousands, maybe even millions. And I want to go over the ants first, since they're a little less interesting in my personal opinion than termites. But with ants, it could be either a single male or a single female. But in many cases, it's often one female and a lot of males. All right? So, ants, I can only describe the nuptial flight event of ants as one hell of a crazy night, okay? It's filled with mating, and she gets that out of her system for good. But the next thing she realizes when she wakes up in the morning is all the males are gone. Where did they all go? Well, they actually died of exhaustion. It was too crazy for them. Okay? So, now our queen-to-be ant is a very strong, independent single mother to raise hundreds, thousands of babies. And this is a picture I took while breaking open logs. This is a very young colony of ants, a carpenter ant, another terrible pest for that matter. And what's really interesting is that when ants lay eggs, the gender of the offspring is determined by whether the egg becomes fertilized or not. And what's even more mind-boggling to me is that the eggs don't become fertilized while it's stored in the ovaries of the female. It actually becomes fertilized while it's being laid. Right? So to think that these tiny ants can decide, I am going to fertilize these groups, I am going to unfertilize these groups, and produce males or females, that blows my mind. Another somewhat of a disgusting thing about young ant colonies is when the queen first starts, she lays a batch of eggs, which turn into larvae. Then she proceeds to feed other eggs to those larvae to grow. So that's other unfertilized eggs. So in more human perspective, the ants are essentially feeding their periods to their babies to raise them. All right? And so moving on, I want to move into... oh, God, I hate this. With termites. Now, termites are much more conservative than the ants. And when they fly... when they swarm together, they make nice monogamous pairs, okay? And and when these monogamous pairs meet, before mating, they first go out on a few dates with each other for the next 20 minutes. Then they decide to get married. And after they get married, they first build a home we call the nuptial chamber. After building this home together, this is when the termites decide we have completed our abstinence contract and starts to mate. And from this point on, it gets a little weird. And that is because termites perform a behavior we call antennal cropping. Now, if I may say, termites mainly use their antennae to sense their environment. During this antennal cropping process, the male and the female pair starts to nibble away at the tip of each other's antenna and consume it. So it's essentially disabling each other's ability to find other mates, and that's exactly what's happening. All right, they are disabling each other for finding other mates. And after getting married, having kids hit termite moms like a truck, and she goes from this to that. But the termite husband still loves her. He says, "You're beautiful," and he shows how much he still loves her by continuously mating with her, just continuously, and making more babies. Now, unlike the ants, termite kings stay by their queens for the rest of his lifetime, and they can live together up to about 25 years. All right, gentlemen, we could learn from this. But as the colony grows, things do become a little strange. And I'd like to show you this picture first and ask you, what's wrong with this picture? And I'll give you a hint. It has nothing to do with the pigments of the insects. All right. So in this picture, these two termites are siblings. They're brothers and sisters. Okay? So when the colony grows, the colony starts to produce what is called the neotenic reproductives. Unlike the kings and queens, the neotenics do not fly. They remain within their colony. And after a nestmate molts into a neotenic reproductive, it finds other siblings that have become neotenics and starts mating with them and producing fertile offspring. And if anyone watches Games of Thrones, it might remind you of these two fellas. All right? And one last thing with termites is they have something called a regressive molt. Sometimes an individual molts into the process of becoming a winged reproductive, then decides, I don't want to go through this, and molts back into a worker. And that's the only case in the entire insects where regressive molting has been observed. So ladies and gentlemen, we have seen a lot of weird mating rituals today. So remember, if your partner asks for something weird, it may be not as weird as what these guys are going through. So maybe a yes every once in a while may be okay. Okay, and with that, thank you all very much for your attention. And I'll take any questions now.